Well, hey there, YouTube. It's P Two Finger, and I got to turn my camera on. Oh, here we are. It's really hot. It's a heat index warning day here in Chicago. They advise you to run air conditioning, or if you can't, go to a public air conditioning center, which would be like an airport, a library, you know. And this is all about saving lives because it is too hot. Right now, I'm running a large dehumidifier cranked and a 1250 12,500 BTU air conditioning unit cranking. And let's see where we're at. I've got a 76 degrees, 76.3, and a 54% humidity. So it's hot. It is hot. So forgive me. We'll say that this video is for crazy people only. If you're tuning into this, you're crazy. And I thank you. Recently, we had some new music on the channel. Live music played at Remote Jam by the duo, my wife and I, and there was some positive comments. So I wanted to, besides responding positively in the comments, come on here and let you guys know how much that really means to me. Thank you so much for commenting on the music. I cannot tell you how important that is to this process of letting me know that you listened to it. Letting me know what you thought is even better. If you liked it, that's going to really, really go a long way for me and my problems up here. Cuckoo. Typically, how this works is feast or famine. If you talk to anybody involved in the creative process, and I hate to say that because I'm not writing songs with lyrics or complicated music. Most of these songs are two parts. They all start with a 4 count of the drums. I mean, this is really minimum to scrape by, but that's kind of what the idea behind the duo is. I mean, honestly, when our kids left, I had thought, well, I should try to up the ante a little bit in my writing. Like, don't hold back so much. Like in the family band, I really wrote the music as simple as I could. And where you'll see some of the parts in the duo, when it's just us two, are a little bit tougher to play for me, being a non-talented, handicapped guitar player. And I say that because it's the truth. I know I'm not supposed to talk about this and I'm supposed to pretend that I'm on an equal playing field, but I'm not, okay? I only play with 2 fingers on my fret hand. And I'm not talented on top of that. So it's a challenge, to say the least. Now, typically what happens is I will, like earlier in the year in January, I recorded a song cycle or an album called Semantical Nightmare. And at the end of that, I was kind of spent creatively. Like when you talk to anybody, they will tell you, like writers who write novels or poetry or painters, how this inspiration comes and goes. It's feast or famine. So I spent myself, and then I needed some time off, and then now I've written some more, but I'm kind of at the end of that too. So what that means for me, if I write more at this point, I will be repeating myself, or I'll end up writing stuff that ends up in the recycle bin because it's just not good enough. It's not up to snuff. So that's where you'll end up with some like straggler stuff that doesn't really fit or sounds kind of dumb, stupid. Anyway, we've got some more stuff, and rather than rush those edits out, I prefer to practice them more here at home and perform them at a later date when we get a better performance, and then bring that to you. And maybe I can write a little bit more. Maybe I can find some balance where I'm not taking months off, but weeks rather, and then just writing a couple. I talked about naming the one song where, and today I typed a little bit more about that because how it worked was not like, oh, I remember the story about when my dad died and I'm going to write the song about that. It was my mom died and I wrote this song at night and put the beat together the same night, and then the next day we play it, and I'm getting like hair standing up on my arm when we're playing it, and we would finish the song and I would burst out laughing and say, I think this is a good song. I would say things like that to her. And it didn't have a name, and rather than, like, I'm consciously aware that, hey, this is the one, this is the best song out of the batch. You're not going to be able to write for a while, and this is like the cream of the crop. This is the best song. So rather than quickly become frustrated and like go through the list of things in my head that pop up as possibilities for a name for it, and come up empty-handed and then look at the clock and go, oh, we're going to call this 5:04 because that's what it's called that's what it says on the clock right now. Because I've done that before. I'll look over and see a cupcake wrapper and I'll go, this one's called cupcake wrapper. Becoming aware that the song might be at a higher pedigree, and then implementing that name that represented this story that is a good story, right? I mean, it is, regardless of if you don't know the story of Blueberry Morning, there's a video. You can watch that. It's long. I tell the story about the end of my father's life. I think it's a great story. Now, and that's how that goes. That's how that works. That's how that ended up with it. It didn't work the other way, where I was like, my mom died. I was emotional. I recalled that event with my father and consciously wrote this song on that topic. Is the other way around. And that's just me being honest about it. You know, that's how it works here at the Willy Wonka's Magical Factory of Magic, where I crank out the hits. Anyway, David had made a comment about the juice. Now, normally meaning the total milliamps consumed, normally when we go out, this will be about 2/3 empty, plus some more. I got some more cells in different locations. And what I'll do the next day, I will use, this has 10 slots, and then I have 3 more that have 4 slots. Now, this last time, what was the difference? Well, the first difference was the devices that consumed the power, I changed out from voltage regulators to what's called a buck, or a step-down transformer. The step-down transformers do not have heat sinks. The voltage regulators do, which tells me they're using a lot more energy. Which should translate to, hey, when you go to recharge your batteries, it's going to be less work charging. Which that was what David pointed out. He said, hey, I would guess that it would be less charging this time. Was that the case? And yes, David, you were correct, because you are always correct. Except for when you talk about certain things about my music, and that hurts my feelings, and then you're incorrect. But no, you're correct. Just maybe you don't have to say it, because I already know. You know what I mean? Anyway, what was different was, in the past I used these, I call them 4-banger, the chargers with 4 slots, and I don't have one here to show you, but use your imagination. They're really cheap. I remember getting those for like $2 before QAnon. Anyway, I got 3 of those 4 bangers, and in the past, I would use everything to charge. This time, I didn't use those 4 bangers. I only used these, and I think that this has a higher throughput of amperage of current. It gets hotter. This thing is like it puts out some heat if you fill it up with 10 drained batteries. So I think that a combination of not using the VREGs and using the step downs, was that consumed less, and using just this 10 banger, which is a higher throughput of current, is what factored into the fact that when I recharged my bin of batteries, I was done. Like, normally I would start and it would go all day into the night, and then the next day I would have to plug some stuff in the morning, and it would run, into that morning, into the afternoon a little bit maybe, to finish them up. This time I started later, like significantly later, and I was done significantly earlier. It was like 5 o'clock to like 10 p.m. and everything was charged. And I did that cash register sound. It went off, and it was like, wow, your charging was less. So you're right again, David. Sometimes you're really smart. Sometimes, except for those times where you make comments about my music that I already realized that hurt my feelings. That's not so smart. Anyway, what an asshole I am. Today, this time out was the first time where we used the new mixer, and I felt, well, I always like running like an outboard mixer along with the PA, and I'll turn up the high end all the way up, and then I need more. I need an outboard EQ, like a stereo EQ, and I will do a smiley curve on that. Maybe not so. He's not smiling so much on the bass side, but the treble side, yeah. And I'll taper it down on that highest slider where it's the highest frequency, maybe to reduce a little hiss. But yeah, I got the feeling that my old mixer is a mono price, and that had more high end on it. It really did. And there's a thing with the MP3 where you can get the MP3 to put out more high end. I got to figure out how to do that on there. I ordered this thing. Let's take a look at it. Let's go over to, here we see it's an EQ. So it's a 3-band EQ, but it also has this BBE 2150AD JRC A9033C. This is the single power supply design, the NJM 2150 BBE sound effect chip to improve the clarity of the highs and lows. The dynamic effect is stronger. So this is if you know the BBE Sonic Stomp, this one here, it just has the BBE chip and an off and on. Okay, so there's a power input and then the audio inputs, which are stereo. And that one is the cheapest. Then there's this one's like $1 more, and this one has switching. There is black pluggable switch, which that is a jumper. One turns the effect on or off, and then there's a engage the high boost switch and then engage the bass boost switch. So I think that's the one that I ordered, and the idea would be to mount this just before the amp, the power amp. So it's going to be hooked up just like we see with this sound source, being the MP3 player that's playing the drums and the guitar and the bass. This is the master output input. It's going to pass through this board going to the amplifier, and I'll run it off of one of the 12 volt. There's two 12 volt packs that run through the whatchamacallits, the step down transformers to power the mixing board. So we'll try that. We'll try that, and if that doesn't work, I could always just use an EQ, or I could get myself this one, which combines the EQ with the JRC, the BBE chip, and that's the Aural Exciter. Now this board here, I see two NE5532P chips. Those, if I bought this, I would suspect that those chips would be counterfeits, and I would replace them with proper NE5532 out of my collection, because I've got some legit Texas Instruments chips, and I know what to look for when those are counterfeit. And also, it's interesting to see we have this this part here on the left. You'll see that looks like it's a voltage regulator. So that would maybe go into my thought. Yeah, see, there's two things with heat sinks on them. Huh. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be trying to get a little bit more of that high-end thing back on the system. I edited the video for Blueberry Morning. I tried out Sony Vegas version 18. Now what happened was I had installed a cracked version of that software a few months ago, and it had a message on it, hey, you need to download this as additional downloadable content. This plug-in effect that you're trying to use will not work unless you download this extra pack from Vegas. And I thought, oh boy, I bet this is some piracy thing to make sure that you're not going to be able to pirate it. You really, if you want to use these features, you're going to have to pay for it. So I went through this process. I had already installed the version of it, and I went and I found a way to download the products, the add-ons. I got those to download, which was not easy to do. And then it started asking me for a serial number. So I uninstalled that, and then I reinstalled my Vegas 18, and it didn't work. I downloaded another version of Vegas 18. That didn't work. I was trying different folders, going into the registry. I use something called Revo Uninstaller Pro, which supposedly goes through the registry and deletes extra registry entries that Windows, the normal uninstaller, leaves behind. So it was like a whole day of messing around, and when I ended up reinstalling 18, it wouldn't work. And unless I were to reformat this drive, I'm in that same position. And the new version of Vegas 18 that I did, it's a portable edition that I got that worked. It would crash every time I did more than one plane of editing. Like, okay, one plane of editing for me is going in on the existing thing and panning and cropping. Then there's adding an effect. So if I were to pan and crop and add an effect like color grading or brightness and contrast, it would crash. So what you need to do is you need to set up your edit for the whole video, and then go through, shut off the effects that are making it crash, and render just those camera movements. And then take that rendered part, drop it into the timeline, and then go ahead and insert your other effects. So I did that, and there is glitches all over the Blueberry Morning video. But they kind of occur at parts where I did a cut, where there'll be a cut. And those cut parts are when the music will change parts from a verse to a chorus. So it almost looks like they happen to the beat, and they don't happen in like random places. They happen at significant changes in the song. So I was able to brainwash myself into saying this video is going to be, it's not a bug, it's a feature. I'm going to drop it, and later on I can do another version of this, only I will revert and I will use Vegas 15. Now, in the past, I've done this process where this was last year. I would set the microphone right up by the middle two speakers, which is the subwoofer and then the guitar, the center channel for the guitar. And then what I would do is drop in the original drum beat to the editor. So you would have the canned music, a pure copy of that, and that really gave me a good auditory experience. The problem was it would give me a good mix. Even though they're digitized, they're not synced to the same clock source, so they drift and they're not the same length. So what I would do is line up the first cymbal hits of the song and get the beginning of the song synced. And I would go to the end and I would find a real distinct hit, like maybe the last hit of the song. And then we go, bam, because we end our songs the same way. All of them are the same. And I would drag the length of the file right up to that and then nudge it back just a hair. And then I would grab the bottom one because it's out of sync. It would always be too long. It would lag. And move it up and line that up. And then they're synced. And if I make a mistake, I can go to another part in the song where I play that same part where I didn't make that mistake, cut that audio out, move it over the mistake, like put a cut right where the mistake is, and then open it up to give it a little room where that mistake lives, and then put that other version from earlier or later in the song and paste it over that and line it up and crossfade it. And typically what I'll do on the video aspect of it is, let's say it was my mistake, because 9 out of 10 of them, she never makes mistakes. I would have the camera go and not show me, it would show her. Otherwise, you see me going and making this face like I just smelled a fart because of the mistake, but the playing is flawless. And you'll see me like doing one of these because I screwed up. So that's part of it, is fixing the mistakes. And I found that stretching, if I'm going to be adding additional files to these mixes, it's really not a big deal to tempo match it, to get, even though they're not on the same clock, to get it to line up and to get it to sound good. Blending in the well, let me preface this by saying this year we added a digital recorder, a 2-track digital recorder, which is this M-Audio 2496 multi-track, and it's attached to this box to have additional batteries so it can run really long. And I put a big battery pack in it. This is like 3 times large or twice as large as what it came with. Now I realize that these spec'd out of China, they're going to be about half of what they write on them, what the manufacturer says they are. But hey, at the same turn of the screw, the one that was in there was already over-spec'd too, right? So, that type of weenie measuring stuff, that I'll leave that for people that aren't producing great art on a regular basis. I said it. So, this year, experimenting with editing, having a 2-track mix, I found that the amount that I was having to adjust the bass end of that, which represents how far out of sync it drifts, was less. It's less than the camera on its own up against the original file. This thing, the 2-track mix that I'm getting, I'm having to nudge it. I'm not having to move it. The other one I was having to move it. It was like, this one's like, beep. So that's cool. And then like the process of going through, I thought, well, how about we get like a 70-30 mix where I get 30 of the mic just to have a little air on it. And it made it sound like, if you've ever heard like a 3 millisecond delay. So I don't know. I ended up just going 100%. And as far as signal processing, I'm doing a kind of a smile curve EQ with a compressor on the input side of it, and on the output side I do a mastering bus compressor. And I've tried some different things, like, you know, they have these Waves plugins where they have like replicating this Abbey Road gear and these old channel strips. I really don't like that. I really don't. I prefer using the EQ that is the standard EQ in Sony Vegas, because I already know how to use that really well and I can get the results I want very quickly. So I'm doing that all on the input side rather than on the output side, which I guess it really doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's it. I went and edited another piece which is called Your Loss, and I did that one on Vegas 15. It didn't crash once. It took like 8 minutes to render. I edited the whole thing in like an hour, whereas the song before that, Blueberry Morning, took like 20 hours. And I was like, I like wanted to jump off of a building. I was so frustrated. So yeah, that's where we're at. I've got some projects, you know, the mid-boost pedal that I've got to box up. I've got the Thunderbird that I've got to box up. I got a Benson preamp I was going to make into a Tweed amp. I might just make that into a pedal. And then there's also a cabinet simulator that Pedal PCB puts out, where that would be really cool on the bass side of things. Her preamp, we had more problems with her preamp, but also we tried running the Zoom on the end of it to run a limiter and a amp and cab sim, and man, that really helped out on the bass. So it's still like there's going to be a lot of adjusting and getting, you know, like for one, I'm going to try that BBE Sonic Stomp. You know, more than likely I will just build that in rather than temp test it or anything. I'll just go right in and install it. As there's a bypass switch on it, and there's engage for the high and the low, and then I can always compensate. I can turn the high and the low on and then compensate with the EQ. So, like I said, this first time out was incredibly hot. It was horrible, but everything worked, and I'm super excited, and thank you for all your comments. I wanted to fill in more of the blanks on the details, and that's what this video was all about. So thank you, and we'll see you with more of the same. You know what I do here. And then there's some actual, you know, you get a payoff. It's not just me running my mouth. There'll be one of these videos with a song on it, and maybe you'll enjoy that. I love it. I love watching this stuff. It's a real lot of work. You can't imagine what it's like for us to go through one of these days. It's a real lot of work leading up to it, and then the actual day is, it can be, the highs are high and the lows are lows, I'll put it that way. But then when you end up with, when I can sit down in the air conditioning, and 3 months later, if I'm super depressed, I can have a glass of wine and watch these videos. That's where it's all worth it for me. So if you guys can appreciate it for the fraction that I appreciate it for, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for sticking around and leaving your comments. I really do appreciate that. Take care of yourselves. Stay cool. And hug your pets. See what I did there?